I got. Yeah. Done good. Doing work my way through it.
That should work.
What they're there for.
Right. You ready, folks? Okay.
Yeah.
Rick, you ready? Okay, great. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Chairman Restaino,
Here.
Vice Chair Updegrove,
Here.
Secretary Casal.
Here.
Roll call complete.
Thank you. Okay, so this is the audit committee meeting, so let's, we have our audit presentation, so just place your name into the record and go right for it.
So I'm Seth Pender, Luxor McCormick. And so we're going to talk about the September 30th, 2024 audit and the results of that audit. So basically it's similar as prior years, it's all favorable results. Let's go through it, go through some of the pretty high level questions. Feel free to stop me and go on. The first thing to talk about is the 3-page letter you have. That's really the summary of all the big items. The communication of those part of governance. So that's a requirement from the auditor to inform you about these big items. Go through. Just a reminder that our responsibility for the audit is to perform the audit. It's really the corporation's responsibility for the financial statements themselves. Even though we prepare them, it's really your responsibility for the content and what's in there. Performing the audit in accordance with the plan scope and timing that we intended to, we remain independent, all those requirements we have. Page 2 of that document also talks about the significant accounting policies. So there were no new GASB standards that were put in this year. There were some that were new this year, but nothing that actually impacted the corporation. So that's GASB 100, but there's no impact on that. You'll see over the next couple of years, there's new GASBs coming out. But really all those, like one per year for the next 3 years, no should have any impact on corporations. One reminder is that statements do include significant estimates. So just a reminder that there are some things that are estimated in there by management. Really the only one you really have is the loan balances, and not that the loan balance itself is an estimate, but it's the allowance on it, how much is estimated in the fund. And right now you have a 0 on total estimate, so no allowance considered at the moment. Your statements do include some disclosures, so just kind of point out some of the more significant ones. Notes 2, 3, and 4, I'll go through that in a few minutes. Really that's the bulk of your notes, so it's really about 2 pages of notes anyway, so there's not much in there. The rest of this document talks about any kind of major issues, so really there's no significant difficulties. There are really no adjustments either. There's one adjustment just to classify current and non-current loans, but really no adjustments in terms of the statements. No disagreements, no issues of any kind like that. So everything went well. And the management letter is the other single page report there. That's where we have recommendations for controls, compliance, and stuff like that. And if there's any material weaknesses, we're required to put it in that letter and give none of those items to disclose here. So it's also just a kind of formality that I'm kind of mentioning. Digging into the actual financial statements, you can see there's probably longer than it'll need to be for the size of the corporation, but to go through some of it, the first couple pages are the independent audit report. That's really the part of the document. It's our report that talks about if it's materially fairly presented statement, which it is. So we've unmodified opinion. That's the one that you're hoping to receive that says everything is fairly presented in accordance with government accounting standards. Also included in the report is what's called the government auditing standards report. So you also are required to perform additional testing and controls and compliance because you're government. That full report is on page 16, and that also includes no findings of any kind in that report. Page 2 of that report kind of talks about, as I said earlier, that your responsibility is over the statements. We're doing the audit. The bottom of that page is the required supplementary information that really talks about what's called the management's discussion and analysis. So that is the management's report, and that's really on pages 4 through 6. And usually I would recommend if you read nothing else, at least read that. That's really more the high-level summary of the financial statements because of the size of the organization. That's almost the exact same thing as the statements itself, but it does include some context of why things happen, what changes from one year to the next, kind of the why of what some of these things are. So there's some information in there. Then page 6 of that document talks about your current projects that were funded in 2024, so that's also some useful information there. Just skip ahead to page 7, that's really where the basic financial statements really start, so we're going to go through that. You can see that there's not much change between year to year. Your cash balance did increase from $590,000 up to $646,000. Really, that's just a function of loans being repaid and some interest revenue, why that cash increased. Usually,
that's actually what I was going to ask you. So that cash, is that a combination of monies that we received on the loan payments with the 0.5% interest? And is it also monies that can be expended for grants or other loans, or is it just monies that we've accumulated from the repayment of loans?
So it's the accumulation of what you receive from loans, basically. So whenever you make new loans or grants, you have really grant drawdowns, and then that cash that comes back in is that cash balance, the principal plus the interest, and you can use it for really what the corporate sees that there's restrictions on the piece that you can do with it, but it's less restrictive than the grant, but still there's some restrictions on what you can spend it for.
Right, so that's money we can use. It doesn't have the same restrictions as the parameters are placed on the grant funds that are, or the monies that we loan out.
Yeah.
To the revolving loan fund.
There's still a lot of
Basically, yeah.
restrictions on it, but yes. It's not, you can't just.
What we get
Well,
to,
yeah, we can.
what,
We can't just go out and buy cars with it or equipment and that, but.
the lesser restrictions are that with the original grant money, we can only grant out so much, we have to loan so much, but with once it comes back in, we can send it out any way we want.
Gotcha.
Whether it be a grant or a loan or whatever.
I appreciate it. Listen, I didn't mean to segue. I was going to ask you that before, and I just want to make sure I understand what cash means.
Yep, so that is the cash in the bank at September 30th. So it's just, as of that date. So the grants receivable, the accounts payable, they usually are the same number every year. So this year your grants receivable were 0, and accounts payable, which is you pay that in October, just a timing function really with that amount this year. The loan receivable, like I mentioned already, about 1.9 million. 86,000 of that is current. That current amount represents how much is expected to be repaid in 1 year from September to September 2025. And the reason for that, kind of looking somewhat lower there, is the bigger loans you have don't start repayment until 2025. So it's not that they're being paid, they're just that's when they return to be repaid. And as I mentioned, there was no allowance on any of those loans, so they are fully expected to be collectible at this point. The loan balance, you did provide $498,000 of new loans during the year, so that was really for the same loan granted last year, but just more money given to that same entity. And then you received $29,000 of principal repayments. So again, not much has been collected yet, but it's going to start coming in this year. So your assets in total are $2.6 million, your liability $25,000. So your net position is $2.6 million. So very healthy amount of fund that our net position equity. So very stable, strong financial position. Page 8 is kind of the revenues of the ins and outs of the cash. Your grant revenue, which is all from the EPA, is $802,000. And really what that represents is it's the cash comes in from the EPA to fund your subrecipient payments, some of the administrative expenses, and your new loan amounts. So your EPA is $802,000. So you don't see the full loan payments on this schedule because the loans are on the balance sheet as a receivable, not shown here as an expense. So that's the reason why your net position goes up by $500,000. It's roughly the amount of new loans provided. And then that gets recycled, that comes back in as the cash we just talked about. The $237,000 of grants to subrecipients, that was paid to State Niagara Falls for the P627 Niagara Falls Boulevard project. And then $74,000 is the administrative fees, which is fairly consistent with prior years. So like I said, it's the increase in net position is really the function of how much we have outstanding loan balances. Page 9 is your cash flows, so that explains the change in that cash balance. A little bit more detail you may have see. The grants received of $843,000 were used to pay off our grants and the new loans, so $735,000, about $90,000 of administrative type items. Those kind of offset for $18,000. So the bulk of the reason cash increase is the principal repayments and the interest received, and then the timing of the payables and receivables on that. That's it for the numbers piece of it. The next couple pages is the notes. Note 1 just talks about all your main financial accounting policies, not much to get into there. On page 11, I did mention notes 2, 3, and 4, kind of the main notes to look at. So note 2 just talks about your loans, how much is outstanding, gives a little bit basic information on what the loans represent. Note 3 is fairly important. It just says the economic dependency. This means your grant sources are EPA. So if EPA ever decides to not fund you or have any issues, that's really all your money is coming from the EPA. So it's going to be disclosed as a commitment. And then your commitment is how much has been approved but not yet spent. So there's a $425,000 grant that's out there that has not been funded yet. Once that's funded, that'll be expensed. And the next two pages get more of the loans and the grants. I've noted those numbers already, just has more detail of who they're paid to and the amounts from previous years and the current year payments. Page 14 is what we call the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. So this is the additional requirement that you receive federal funds. That if you spend more than $750,000 in a given year, you're required to have what's called a single audit, which is what kind of triggers that compliance testing that we're required to do. So you're at almost $1.3 million, and what that represents is that it has to be any payments used with federal funds and any new loans that were given out during the EPA funds. So with that triggered the single audit, which we're required to test the loans or we're required to test the payments for administrative purposes and other compliance requirements by the EPA. And from all of that, there was no findings of compliance or controls. So again, third time, there's no findings or anything. So that's also a good sign. So that's the third report is in here. And they're on pages 16 through 18. There's just the reports. So it's the government auditing standards and the compliance audit for the single audit. Page 21 is a summary of all those things I talked about, a summary of all the various results of those audits and reports. Here's one page summary of that. And then finally, the last page is the 2925 3F report, which is the public authority AAA requirement that says your investments have to be in safe, secure investments, which you're basically in cash. So that's the compliance there. The only thing I recommend in that one maybe is to look into the bank I was talking about that a little bit, just make sure that you're collateralized on the amounts over $250,000. Because there's some risk with that, but something double check on that. Otherwise, everything else is good. There's no findings, healthy net position, no allowances on the loan, which is good. So really no negative items to discuss. Right,
Good. Does anybody have any questions?
Nope.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks.
We're now, go ahead, sir.
For this, we would need just a motion to recommend to the board, which is also the three of you, to accept this when we get into the next meeting.
I'll move it.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Chairman Restaino,
Yes.
Vice Chair Updegrove.
Yeah.
Secretary Casal.
Yes.
Roll call complete.
Great, thank you. Okay, that adjourns this meeting. Okay. Membership meetings before? Yes. Okay. So if you could take a look at the agenda you have, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Have a nice holiday.
Thanks, you.
The membership meeting agenda, again, if we'll call that meeting to order, and please again call the roll.
Chairman Restaino,
Here.
Vice Chair Updegrove,
Here.
Secretary Casal.
Here.
Roll call complete.
Okay, the designation of directors. That's us.
Unless you want to designate anyone else.
Mike,
Is it possible? Well, you can't really just move the whole slate because each one of us would would have to abstain from our own, correct?
Correct.
Right.
All right, so then I'll move Chairman Rustino for chairman.
I'll second.
Call roll,
Since I know
please.
you won't.
Yes,
Okay,
you got it, yes for me.
Chairman Rustano
Abstaining.
and Secretary
Yes.
Casal.
Yes.
Okay, so now we have the other two offices, vice chair and secretary. Please allow me to move Rick Updegrove as vice chairman and Mike Casale as secretary.
We have to do those separate?
So, well, I would second Mike Casale, can't second my own.
I will second Rick,
Thank
I'm
you
the vice
both.
chair.
Thank you both.
There we go.
So now we're gonna have this Chinese checkers call the roll, but go ahead.
Okay, Chairman Rustano
I vote yes on both.
and Vice Chair Updegrove
I vote yes on Mike, abstain from my own.
and Secretary Casal.
And I'll vote yes on Rick and abstain from my own.
Hallelujah, that's
Okay, roll complete.
okay. Executive officers. Where are we with that?
Well, you have had Amy as your president since inception.
Oh, okay, great, I'm good with that.
I would-
I think we moved.
We can move both of those together and I'll do that.
Thank you.
Then I'll go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'll second.
Call roll, please.
Chairman Rustano,
Yes.
Vice Chair Updegrove,
Yes.
Secretary Casal.
Yes.
Thank you.
Roll
Thank you so much.
complete.
Okay, these three committees,
The three committees, because of the uniqueness of the size of our organization, the committees are made up of the three of you in each and every instance. So I think those can all be moved together as one. I don't think it's necessary.
Right, I'll move those.
a second. Thank you, Rich. Call roll, please.
Chairman Rustano,
Yes.
Vice Chair Updegrove,
Yes.
Secretary Casal.
Yes.
Roll call complete.
Thank you so much. We'll move to the annual report. Amy.
Perfect. So this is the annual report that is required by BAAA and Paris. The first section is our mission statement, which has not changed since the inception of the organization. The next part is the corporation structure, and that just explains who held those specific positions for fiscal year 2024, which again ran from October 1st of 23 to September 30th of 24. We have the second page talks about our 24 accomplishments. We had 3 active projects during 24 that had signed agreements. The junior truck stop project in the city of Niagara Falls, that started out as a $125,000 sub-grant for remediation. There was an additional increase of that sub-grant in November of 23 to allow for additional contaminated soils to be removed. In the summer of 24, additional soil contamination was found, and the New York State DEC indicated that they would not sign off on a closure of the site and the spill that was at the property unless that contaminated soil was removed. So this board did approve a $259,000 sub-grant increase. That agreement has just been signed with the city. So we are in a position for that project to move forward with remediation with the existing Mark Stone contractor. 624 River Road in North Tonawanda. This board had approved $1 million loan for additional remediation at the site. I'm happy to report the remediation is pretty much completed. They have a little bit left on their loan, about $12,200. And they're just catching up with some of their final reporting. I have the final invoice. It's just some engineering for the final work that DEC required. So that's going through the review and approval process. So that should be fully drawn down, hopefully by the end of this year. And they are underway with a beautiful redevelopment of the property with a mix of waterfront, apartments, and commercial space. So that is a big success story for North Tonawanda as well as for this organization.
Hey, refresh my recollection on that one. Is that the same ownership group that owns Rock One?
Yes, it's DLV Properties, but it's Louva's own. Fields.
Moving, oh, right, moving up, gotcha, all right,
Yep.
thanks.
So then 2020 River Road in the town of Wheatfields, that project, this board granted a $425,000 sub-grant during this fiscal year. I have been working with the town. We have a conceptual plan to turn the site into a town-owned waterfront park and having boardwalks and trails through it, as well as a potential pavilion, rest area, and a parking lot. As part of the remediation work, we are required to do a wetlands survey, but because of the timing and everything got in place, that wetland survey will not be underway until the spring. So the design is kind of on hold right now until we get a better handle on exactly what wetlands can be impacted and what can't be impacted. We did hold a meeting with all of the neighbors because there are some residential properties immediately adjacent to this. And so they have, kept abreast of what's going on at the site. We'll be doing additional public outreach and community outreach. I am managing the project 100% for the town of Wheatfield. So as this moves forward, it's probably gonna, pick up in pace. But I think it's a really great project and I know the town is very excited about it.
The nice thing about that project, too, correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, closes the loop on a very important bike trail.
Yeah, and the bike trail is under construction and it already be done actually in front of this property. So the part of the thought was that as the remediation is done at this property and park amenities are put in, it can be a rest stop that's indicated on the bike trail map. So it's an official stop and it will provide waterfront access. Our current design has a over the water platform for fishing at the site. So it's something that, people can park their bikes, put them in a bike rack, walk along the trail, and go down to the water, probably with benches and things like that. So we're looking at having a restaurant too, just so it's a convenience station. On the third page of the report is the financial information for the active projects. The way that the juniors truck stop, the 5627 Niagara Falls Boulevard project was set up was that the first two sub-grants were from an EPA revolving loan fund grant that we have since closed out. That grant, it expired in September of 2024. And so that grant was fully paid out. So the $259,000 sub-grant increase for juniors truck stop is coming out of that cash balance that Seth had mentioned in the audit report. So that is part of repayments and interest that is going into a different bank account. So that new grant Niagara Falls will be coming from that. The 624 River Road, again, they have $12,931 and we're going through the invoice review process right now for that. So hopefully that balance will be pretty close to zero shortly. They've not drawn anything down on the 2020 River Road. Once the wetlands survey is started, then we'll start drawing down against that balance. Table 2 provides the loans that are in payment. This was also information that was in our audit. So Enterprise Lumber and Silo is the only one that is in the principal payment period, but next year the DLV properties, the $500,000 loan that will start paying back principal payments. For the financial review, this is just similar to what was in the audit, but the cash on hand is $646,000 and $255. I'm sorry, I have no voice today, so I apologize. The next page is just the required statements for the annual report, just that we didn't own any property, the board members severed out compensation, and that we do have an annual audit, and that we do have a code of ethics that was adopted at the inception of the corporation, and that remains in full effect today. And then both Margaret and I signed the report certifying that the information is correct. Any questions?
I just want to say that juniors truck stop property, I really appreciate your focus on that project. Trying to bring that property into a building trades development center. It's as you might expect, it started out in what appeared to be just do this and we're all good. It turned out to be one Band-Aid getting ripped off after another, so I appreciate everyone sticking to that. Because I think once we get there, it's going to be a pretty good site. We're already graduating people from the site while the remediation is going on, so looking forward to that completion.
Yeah, it's a good project.
Anybody else? Okay, great. Amy, the budget report.
Yep, so the budget report is included in the annual meeting as a requirement, but this report was already reviewed and adopted by this board and submitted to Paris for the August 1st deadline. So there's no action needed. It's just in here as a required course.
Great. And, excuse me, the next meeting date will be set, scheduled and sent out to everyone.
Yep, so for the membership meeting, that's an annual meeting typically, so it's usually mid-December when the audit's completed.
Okay, great. Anybody opposed to adjourning this meeting and moving to the next one? Great, thank you all. Board of Directors meeting. We'll call to order. Again, for the record, please call the roll.
Chairman Restaino,
Here.
Vice Chair Updegrove,
Here.
Secretary Casal.
Here.
Roll call complete.
Next is the approval of the minutes. I think they're part of the packet. Are there any questions? Sorry?
I'll move those.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Call roll, please.
Chairman Restaino,
Yes.
Vice Chair Updegrove,
Yes.
Secretary Casal.
Yes.
Thank you. Again, Amy, the annual report.
Yep, so the same annual report that I just talked about, that has to also be included in the annual board of directors meeting. So,
Motion to approve the annual report.
You would also need to approve the audit report as well, which you could do in one motion.
Okay,
I'll move them all.
thank you. I'll second.
Chairman Restaino,
Yes.
Vice Chair Updegrove.
Yep.
Secretary Casal.
Yes.
Roll call complete.
Thank you. Budget report.
same thing.
Okay. I move that we accept the budget report. Second, please.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Rick.
Chairman Restaino,
Yes.
Vice Chair Updegrove,
Yes.
Secretary Casal.
Yes.
Roll complete.
And item number 6, the investment report adoption of investment guidelines. That was all part of the,
Yeah, so PAAA requires a separate investment report, even though we have no investments. So there is a report in your packet. It's just a 2-page report. Basically, it says that it's a summary of what we did during the year, which is very similar to what the annual report says. And it says that we have no investments and we serve without compensation. There's no fees, commissions, or other charges paid to an investment bank or broker or dealer. When we have to put this report in there every year to make it. So this does have to be adopted, and PAAA requires that there is the comprehensive investment guidelines are adopted on an annual basis. There were made changes to them because we don't have investments, but they are also included in your package.
I'll move the investment.
thank you. I'll second.
Chairman Restaino,
Yes.
Vice Chair Updegrove,
Yeah.
Secretary Casal.
Yes.
Roll complete.
Thank you. Amy, project updates.
We pretty much went through all the project updates as part of the annual report. The other thing I would say on the project updates is this board did look at a loan for NF Lockport LLC for a proposed remediation and subsequent development of a strawberry farm in the town of Cambria. They are still working through getting acquisition of the property because they're doing a private foreclosure. And they've ran into a few issues with that, but they are moving forward. They have provided additional financial information that our financial reviewers requested. But until they actually have title to the property, I think the recommendation is that, we don't move forward with any of the loan documents or anything like that until they have the actual title. So hopefully that will be coming in early to mid 2025, so we can move forward with that loan. We did receive a loan application for a project in North Tonawanda, and they are in the process of entering into the state brownfields cleanup program. Their application has received preliminary approval by EPA, but they're looking at almost $3 million worth of remediation. So they will be coming before this board, hopefully sometime in early to mid 2025. And we've been having conversations with a couple other companies that they've not submitted applications yet, but they are interested in the program. So we have some good projects hopefully coming up.
Great. Directors and officers liability insurance.
So the annual renewal is on January 19th for continuation of our insurance, and I have not received the information for this for 2025 yet, but it has been consistently $2,094 is what the premium has.
Will you need us to take any action to authorize that?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
It's just, it was more of an FYI for the board.
Okay. Confidential evaluation board performance.
So in your packet is the annual board performance evaluation. This is the one that you agree, somewhat disagree, or disagree. And this has to be summarized and then sent to the state. It's confidential, so you do not have to write your names on it, but please push on it.
Okay, great. Scott, we're at that point. For you.
This will be an easy one. As Amy indicated, the projects are thus far running smoothly, and I have no business to bring before the board.
Okay, great. So, again, the next meeting date will be set as is necessary.
Yes.
Okay, great. So we'll adjourn this meeting as well. Thank you all so much. I don't know, Rick, if I'll see you beforehand, but Merry Christmas.
Hey, Merry Christmas, Mayor.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay.